World Racing Group CEO Brian Carter addressed the High Limit Series on Tuesday, and we'll get into his comments, plus a bunch of other news bits, including an angry tweet from Tony Stewart. Let's go. It's Wednesday, November 9th. I'm Justin Fiedler. This is Dirt Tracker Daily. I know that a bunch of you watched my interview with Brad Sweet from about a month ago where we talked all about the new High Limit Sprint Car Series, and as of right now, the video has over 13,000 views and another 1,000 plus downloads of the podcast version. One of the main topics around High Limit, especially when it comes to guys like Brad Sweet, is how things will land with the World of Outlaws allowing or not allowing their Platinum teams to compete with this new series. We obviously know where Brad and several other drivers stand on this, but we, until yesterday, hadn't gotten any public acknowledgement from World Racing Group about any of this. But as has been customary for many years, World Racing Group CEO Brian Carter made his yearly appearance on MRN's Winged Nation following World Finals. He sat down for 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more, with Steve Post and Aaron Evernham to talk all things World of Outlaws. And there's a ton from the conversation to react to, and when you're done watching this episode, I would highly recommend giving it a watch. I'll link to the video in the description below. It's also available on the Winged Nation YouTube channel and the Winged Nation Facebook page. We don't hear from Carter very often publicly, and there was a ton of interesting information he provided. He didn't go so far as to say what his decision is or will be or could be about allowing Platinum teams the chance to do more mood lining next season, but he did say that he's not going to rush into deciding. He said there's still a lot to consider, and he wants to make sure he has the full picture around sponsors, the schedule, and how this could affect Outlaw events. In terms of conversations with the teams and the drivers about a lot of this, Carter did say those have been up and down, but that he doesn't blame anyone for wanting more. When you watch the video, you'll notice there's actually quite a bit of paper in front of Brian Carter, which he references pretty often. He came armed with a bunch of numbers and stats as he shared his opinions and thoughts about the future for Platinum teams and what they're asking for. He's very much a numbers guy, and it makes me think that he's not going to easily budge off the way the agreements with the full-time teams are currently structured. Aaron also asked him about streaming and transparency with the teams, about how much something like Dirt Vision makes money-wise. And Carter said that it's not quite as lucrative as some believe. He mentioned things like the revenue split with Apple, which if you don't know is 30% for apps. So any money you make on Apple through apps, they automatically get a 30% cut. He talked about their broadband providers and satellite fees along with staffing as all things that affect their revenue. And as you might have expected, he did make the point that he's not really under any obligation to be transparent about the numbers as it's his business. He said he doesn't ask the teams to be transparent about their businesses around things like merch sales. I did like his comments about the at-track experience versus watchers at home via streaming. Carter doesn't want home viewers to have more information than those watching in the stands, which is why they invested in the big screens that they bring to the racetracks. They want to maximize the viewing experience for at-track viewers first, and then try and bring as much of that as possible to Dirt Vision for those that can't attend. He mentioned that multiple times about the stands and the fan experience. He's very much worried about what's happening at the racetrack first. I think that's an interesting thing to note here. Towards the end, they also talked about the 2023 schedule, and Carter alluded to there possibly not being a spring West Coast swing, which is something I've been hearing for a while. He also confirmed no Bristol next year, which we've talked about on this show. After watching the full interview, I'm not surprised by anything he said. There are some chances in there, I think, to read between the lines a bit about several topics. I've known Brian for nearly 10 years at this point, and if there's one thing I know about him, it's that he's going to do what he thinks is necessary to keep the company and the brand strong and healthy for the future. Love him or hate him, he's navigated WRG in the various series through some really dark times and to a point today where they're as healthy as they've probably ever been. That's good for WRG, but it's also good for dirt racing as a whole. We need the World of Outlaws, their events, and the dirt car community to be in a good place. Go watch the interview. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments about any number of the topics he talked about. Curious what you guys think. All right, I've got a few other quick hit things for you today, and we'll start with the other WRG-centric bits first. I know there was some issue on social media regarding purses from World Finals earlier this week. I wanted to address this. It seems as though some thought purses were quietly cut around the late models, which is actually incorrect. There was confusion between what people were finding on the Outlaw websites versus what teams actually got paid. But if you looked at the series competitor notes for World Finals, the purse information that was available there matched what guys got paid. The series did apologize to some of the teams for the confusion, but I know there was some some Twitter posts, some Facebook posts floating around about them cutting purses. That is not what happened. Also, I've been asked a few times about the Xtreme late model series that we've seen run in the offseason the past few years. From what I've heard, that series is not happening this year. The weather is obviously a challenge through the winter. I'm sure the difficulty in getting events scheduled and completed played a role here. Also, and I don't know this to be a fact, I'm just thinking out loud here, but Dryden had sponsored that series, and if they were not interested in returning, that could have also played a part here as well. Several of those races that were sanctioned by the Xtreme series, though, will still happen, like the Blue Gray 100 at Cherokee Speedway in South Carolina. A lot of those kind of standalone races were just kind of pulled into the series, but a lot of those will happen anyway. Back on Monday's show, Lou Fish asked me about Tony Stewart's tweet from last Tuesday, and instead of responding in the comments, I just figured we'd talk about it here. Tony posted a link to a TikTok video from the World of Outlaws account and said, quote, "This is the respect we as car owners and drivers get from the World of Outlaws. Hope you all enjoy World Finals. Maybe they'll show the fans a higher level of respect. Hashtag disrespect, hashtag zero class," unquote. The TikTok video that he referenced has since been deleted, but if you didn't see it, it was a shot of Jason Sides from a few years ago where he flipped off the cameraman. I'm not super certain why that stuck in Tony's craw, as it's not like Sides didn't know what he was doing. This felt a little, though, like just a public opportunity to take a shot at the series, which isn't the first time that's happened this season from TSR and a few other sprint car organizations. You might remember Donnie Schatz did something similar after the rain race at Williams Grove. And I know behind the scenes, teams have been unhappy this year about a number of topics. I personally have no problem with a video like that. And when I was a part of the social media team there years ago, we were always finding ways to push the envelope. We no doubt pissed off a few people along the way. Not so sure when we got so sensitive about things. I think we forget sometimes that the series is called The World of Outlaws. Anyway. And a quick final note about Grandview Speedway. We've been talking about this story since August, but as of October 26th, Copart has terminated their agreement with the track owners to purchase the property. The auction and salvage company needed an extension to their original pact with the Rogers family to try and resolve those permitting issues, to which Teresa Rogers declined. So the deal was canceled, and Grandview will move forward as a racetrack. Their 2023 schedule is on as planned, and promoter Bob Miller confirmed to Speed Sport that they will have a Pennsylvania Speed Week show on June 27th. Before we shut it down today, the Short Track Super Series race last night was fogged out mid-program, not rained out, but fogged out. So they will try again tonight at Rocket Raceway Park to get that one complete. Around the other dirt racing podcast this week, that's the streaming schedule. Here's the podcast schedule. Around the other dirt racing podcast this week, Wing Nation has Brian Carter, Passing Points has Angie Battles, Forward Bite has Devin Morgan, QuickTime has Freddie Raymer, All Gas New Breaks has I think 4 new episodes, and there are new shows for the Dirt Reporters, the Dirt Nerds, and Dirt Tracks and Rib Racks. To see the full list of shows and episodes, head over to dirttracker.com/podcasts. And now the streaming schedule. There are 3 shows on it for today. Flow Racing has a Short Track Super Series from Rocket Raceway Park in Texas and Flow 24/7. And XR Plus has open practice for the XR Super Series from the Dirt Track at Las Vegas. The Duel in the Desert begins officially tomorrow with racing, but today they've got practice. To see the full daily streaming schedule with links to watch, visit dirttracker.com/watch tonight. That's it for the show today. Have a good Wednesday. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the show if you don't do so already. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow for more Dirt Tracker Daily.